So I've been cooking for going on 24 years. And my intention is just to cook in the beginning. It's something that I always wanted as a young person. Uh, Cooking shows, Food Network didn't exist, of course, right? But PBS existed. And on Saturday mornings, you could watch cooking shows in the morning, or you can watch your Saturday morning cartoons. And I mean, I would do both, but a lot of times I would favor, Yan Can Cook and The Galloping Gourmet and East Meets West with Ming Tsai and those things. Um, it was just a very normalized thing to just be involved in food watching, cooking, being in the kitchen. I didn't realize that was like not what every kid just does. Doing that, I started cooking and very young, but I got involved in a culinary program when I was 15 through Riverside. I think I was like the second or third class of like the first ever culinary program in El Paso. It was like a really pioneering thing. Chef Rick Webb. He was a pioneer here in the city. He was the first culinary arts instructor in El Paso. And he brought in these kids and whipped us into cooks. It was very unconventional. And but I knew I wanted it. And when I was looking for like extracurricular activity or just something like, what are they called? Electives, right? You got to take a certain amount. I was trying to skip PE, chubby kid. And I like video games and I like chips and I did not like PE. And so I saw that I can get PE credit and I can cook. And it was a food service program at first is what I saw at the counselor. So it was supposed to be like large setting food service, cafeteria stuff. And it was at the central office. And then I was like, well, yeah, I guess I can do that, And then she goes, well, there is this new program. It's called Culinary Arts. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I got into that program and I was sold out from day one. And I just remember Chef Webb having a serious face and rubbing his beard and letting everybody know, like, this is not a game, blah, blah, blah. And for me, just because I was a little rebellious, my first instinct was like, oh, this is dumb, but I really wanted to cook. And I just listened and heard him out. And then he just kind of showed his soft underbelly. And I was sold. And so I got into that program. And I think within 2 months, I was cooking. Basically, from then on, everything that I did related to food. It was food industry. I taught. I've done ministry work. I've done nonprofit, like on-site social work type stuff. And it's all been food-based. So that's from the time I was a kid. That's just all I know. I started teaching at El Paso Community College in 2005 with the culinary arts program. At that time, the director of the program was Chef Rick Webb, my high school instructor. And then my other job was at Montwood High School. And I was a high school teacher I started 2005 with EPCC in the beginning of their semester. So it was like August, September, right? And then I came in to Montwood, which my dad, I guess, had been in this guy's ear, the director, in my ear. And I came in as a sub. And what happened is I was replacing a beloved teacher that had cancer and he passed away. And so they didn't know when it was going to come. And these kids had been without a teacher for almost a full school year. And so they were the class of 2006, the first class, I remember it, but it came in, I started with them November. So September, October, so 2 months I worked at EPCC, started Montwood, and they were just so hungry to learn, and they were young. I was young. They were like my little brothers and sisters. Comfort level just went up, and it made going to teach at night easier. I started becoming a stronger teacher for the college folks through my kids because I could just kind of let loose and not care. And I don't know, I just really was nervous with the college, and I built relationship all the way through with the students at the college and at the high school. And my work started turning from focus of food to like focus on humans and food. And so like the teaching really like made me think differently. As I taught, I had to learn. I had to go back to teaching like technique and stuff like that, right? But as you go in and you have to teach more to these kiddos at the high school, and you have to come up, there's no lesson plans for culinary. There was nothing. Was part of like having to shape that. It had gone on many years, just kind of flying by the seat, you know? And I think by now they have a lot more curriculum type based stuff, but I would have to learn and research. And I'm not the researching type. I'm not like, I'm not an academic. I work with my hands, and I learn through cooking, and I learn through watching and playing and being, you know, and notes. I just find a friend that takes good notes, and I take pictures of them and study those. You know what I mean? That's just like who I am, just who I am. So as a teacher, it really stretched me and challenged me. And as a cook, I could work 14 hours. As a teacher, I'd work a 6-7 hour day with 2 conference periods, and I would come home exhausted. And it was just the mental thing, right? So in that time of having to learn, I started looking into food systems, like Food Inc. That documentary came out at that time, and I started learning how much consumption of animal products, how much fertilizers are in stuff, what a monoculture is versus a polyculture, and teaching that to my kids. Because I'm like, okay, I have time with these guys. I can teach them how to tornado a potato all day. I could teach them how to like boil, steam, fry. But once we got that down, what else are we going to learn? And I have 3 years with these kids beginning to end, you know? So we started talking about that type of stuff. So as I was saying, what else do I teach these kids beyond that, right? And a lot of the stuff in the high school was, you see, at the college, there was lesson plans. I'd go in, I'd teach my class, I'd leave. At the high school, I had to come up with it. And with the kiddos, they always wanted them competing. And I didn't like the competition. I'm also not competitive. That's why I wasn't in sports, you know. And these kiddos, I didn't much like them competing. And so we figured out ways. So we would run business, and then we would travel. And that's what we would do. But I would have to teach them other stuff that a lot of time was used for competing in the other teachers, you know? So we would do that. We would watch Food Inc. And we would, like, I took that, and it comes with the curriculum. So I would go over like a 8-week and take section by section and talk about, you know, the meat industry and what is big business and and then we start talking about stuff, and I didn't even realize there was little government and economics in there. There was, you know, some social studies and just different other areas. And wouldn't you know that I started learning and started taking things in along with the kids. So it was like a learning experience together. And it really started shaping the way I started thinking about food. I wanted to grow a garden. I wanted to see how it went. I remember my dad doing it young, just a little bit, and he'd have fun with it. And he just loved to put Miracle-Gro, he still does, on everything Miracle-Gro, and his stuff just would get big, and it was very satisfying. And then I learned how terrible Miracle-Gro and all that stuff was. But so I wanted to have a hand at it, so I started gardening. I started at my home. At one point I had like 5 gardens going, and we were eating out of our garden every day, and my daughter was plucking green beans, and it was really cool. And it really started getting me to understand that food is not just a product that you put on a plate that has a cost per plate and it has weight and does this and that, and like it just totally is like food is way more important than that, you know. Like, I'm teaching these kiddos more than just culinary. They need to like learn a relationship with food. One of my favorite questions with them was what does seasonal food mean to you, you know? And so the responses I would get every time was tamales at Christmas, was, you know, menudo on Sundays, turkey at Thanksgiving, you know. But not one student could tell me that seasonal food meant that we have 4 seasons and certain foods grow in those seasons and you can only have them at that time. And it was an eye-opener for me. They didn't know that you can only have apples at this point, and that, tomatoes, you can't eat them year round. And the ones that come into the grocery store are sprayed with gas so they can turn red. They didn't know any of that. And I didn't know a lot of it either. And it became central to me. That took over the technique. I had to show them that. So I would sneak it in at EPCC. I don't know how appreciated it was, but I would kind of sneak that in. I would just always be talking about where our food came from. And like when we were handling a piece of meat, like what chances of it containing fecal matter on it are. And just because if you're going to work with this stuff and you're going to use it, then you need to know, right? And so the relationship changed. About 2000, I started teaching 2005, 2006. Within my 5th year is when I felt strong enough to just kind of start doing my own thing. And yeah, that was about 2010, and I started getting into that stuff.